Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Misbah Altaf, facilitator of Rahan School Karangi campus. I am back to my show, Misbah Altaf. Today we have very special guest. His name is Michael Ballard. Thank you so much, sir, for your precious time uh, uh, for joining to my show. And welcome to my show, sir. How are you?
I'm very well. And hello to everyone from Toronto, Canada.
Oh, Toronto, Canada. And hello everyone from Pakistan because I am Pakistani.
Yes,
So thank you so much, sir. So can you please introduce yourself for my viewers?
certainly. So I'm Michael Ballard, as you can see, and I started Resiliency for Life over 25 years ago because as a cancer patient, I had a chronic illness diagnosis before that. Uh, I passed my grade 12 school, but school was difficult because I had some learning issues. And along the way, I was amazed that there was no what I call situational mental health skills to help me cope and thrive. So, resiliency is about mindset, it's about your attitude and how that affects you rationally, emotionally, and physically, and helps you keep resiliency keeps you safer, happier, and often has much better outcomes than if you don't have resiliency in your life. So that's my passion, and I've worked from Bermuda to Singapore, all over Canada, in the US, and I've been invited to your wonderful country a few times. We just need to get a sponsor for me to work in the schools, but I think that'll happen. So I love talking about resiliency because it impacts our physical health, mental health, and impacts our grades and graduation rates and our happiness. So that's me.
Oh, that's great. Was amazing. It's nice to hear about you. So my first question is that for you, sir, can you tell us about a person who has lifted you higher in your life?
Oh, great question. I have been blessed with many people that have lifted me up. And not only lifted me up, but often pointed me in the right direction for me. And that's really important because whether they're mentoring you for the day or for a lifetime or for a situation, it's people that can lift you up and make you feel better and see a better way. That's important. But if they can help you show you the right direction, even better. One of my, well, I have blessed with many, but one of my favorite people was a math teacher, Mr. John Campbell. And in grade 10, a long time ago, he closed the door on a Monday math class and said, so I need you to take these home and get them signed by your parents. But I'm going to go off the official educational curriculum because now's the time for you to learn math that'll serve you the rest of your life. And of course, I'm in grade 10 thinking, what does he mean? What's he talking about? He proceeded over the next 2 weeks of math classes to teach us about interest rates, credit cards, car loans, car leasing, mortgage rates, renting an apartment, owning an apartment. The man made math highly functional for when you start to be an adult and you become an adult in the rest of your life. He got us a whole bunch of tax forms and taught us for 2 days how to fill out our own taxes. It was so practical, so functional, and yet when I was in grade 10, none of that was taught. So he's one of my heroes because when I got into business, I had all this practical math taught to me by a teacher who disobeyed the curriculum and taught me things that were really functional for the rest of my life. And I remember one of my customers saying, you're really good at this basic math business stuff. I have advanced math skills, but I never got taught any of this. And I'm thinking, I know, what's silly is a math curriculum that doesn't teach you math for everyday living? You know, renting versus owning versus mortgage rates versus credit cards versus car ownership, car leasing. Unbelievable. Oh, and I think he even talked about buying a new car versus buying an old car. The cost of a new car versus an old car that needs repairs. He just made it so easy to understand and why it was important. So bless him. It's been a long time, but he changed the quality of my life. So that's one. There is many. I've been blessed to have many people lift me up, but Mr. John Campbell was one of them.
Oh, it's amazing because I love math because math's my favorite subject,
Uh,
and also, sorry,
yes, good.
thank you. So, my another question is that for you, how do you define being a good ancestor?
How do I define being a good ancestor? Oh, that to me is an exceptionally good question. To be a good ancestor, to me, it means the next generation, you raise them, rise them up, help them rise up. And again, point them in the right direction. Help them learn a couple of skills or more than a couple of skills to deal with the turmoil of life and leave the planet physically in a better place than you found it. So in my case, my daughters, we taught them gardening, organic gardening. Uh, we did a couple of untraditional things, but from what I had read, it made sense. So we did deep tilling in the garden once. So that means you go down 2 full feet to loosen the soil, and you add a lot of mulch, no artificial fertilizer. You add a lot of compost, and then you turn it one more time, 2 feet deep, and then you never walk on the garden. So that was teaching them how to garden. And we got vegetables. We had carrots that were 9 inches, a foot long. They were enormous because the crops had good soil. So being a good ancestor, rationally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, you help them learn some things to keep them safer, more productive, more respectful of self and others. That's a few things.
So, thank you so much, sir, for giving me amazing answers. So, sir, how do you strive to add value to the earth during your life?
I didn't know this was the next question. I sort of answered that at the last one. Uh, Align yourself with principles that improve the quality of the earth and the people. There's the great big project in Africa where they're putting a green strip across Africa with vegetation and trees and shrubs, and they're helping revive the areas close to the desert to stop the desert from getting bigger. And in fact, they're pushing the desert back by using ancient, easy to use agricultural tools. They dig crescent moons into the soil, 18 inches to 2 feet deep on the sides of hills. So when it rains, instead of the rain all just running off and going into the rivers causing flash floods, it stops the rain right there and it soaks in. And then at the bottom of the berm, they put a berm and they plant tall grasses to help slow down the moisture loss as well. And then in the berms, wildlife starts to come to drink on the shoulders of the dry seasons because the water is collected in the berms. It's about leaving the earth in a better place for food, for people to have the capacity to have a higher quality life because they have more water year round. And there's less chance of starvation because they can then grow crops and not only enough to eat, but enough to sell in the local markets.
So, that's amazing. Thank you so much, sir, again. So, sir, can you please share a memorable experience for meeting someone of a different race, color, or creed?
Yes, yes. I've just gone blank on her name. I met a journalist who was born in Somalia, moved here, and she was a great advocate for mental health and respecting the differences based on age, race, color, creed, gender, you name it. And so I would suggest that she was one of Canada's best journalists. Unfortunately, she got killed by a terrorist bomb while she was visiting Somalia because she did videos showing you the beauty of Somalia, the beauty of the people, and the little kids and the older kids and the wisdom of the elders. She really did respect all the ages and the faiths. And I just found it so exciting. And she invited me some of the events. And I told her it was really nice to come to the events. And it was interesting to see how some of the young adults had kept very custom with the customs of their parents and their elders, and some were more westernized. And I'm not judging either or, but some of us want to fit in when we move. So if you're grade 8 going to a public school here, you might want to look more like your peers. And some were like, nope, this is who I am when I arrived, and this is who I am now. And I found great to be in a group that large, that safe, that accepting. And a couple of times I got invited to events where I was one of the only men there. And so people would come up and say, "You must be a friend of." Yes, it figures she invites everybody. But it made it so much nicer to meet all the ages and races. And then the food, oh, it was fantastic. So when you post this, I will go in and find a picture of her and give you her name, because she was a remarkable role model on how to be a respectful difference maker. And she was very big in social media for a long time. A couple of times we went on with no pre-planning, and her social media account would say 1 person watching, 12 people watching, 40 people watching. And the next thing you know, in a couple of minutes, there's 300 people watching. At one point, YouTube turned off her channel because it's impossible for 1 person to get that many viewers. There must be a bot behind all this. No, she was very good at getting people from the left side of the spectrum and the right side of the spectrum to have respectful conversations in the middle. And so I thought she was, and is in my heart, remarkable forever.
Oh, that's amazing, sir. So, what inspires you about other people's vision and plans for the future?
Oh, well, a couple of your students that go to your same school talk about income for everyone and clean drinking water for everyone in Pakistan. I agree. We all need to have a basic income to be safe, and we all need clean drinking water, because without clean drinking water, it's hard to have a safe life. So to have students at grade 7, grade 8 be that inspired, yes, I agree.
Oh, that's nice, sir. Sir, how do you think meeting people from diverse backgrounds has enriched your life?
Oh, that's a great question. It's called POV. It helps expand your point of view. So by expanding your point of view, it helps you see that maybe that not your way is the only way. So I remember my parents saying, we are advocating for our house of worship to be opened up on 1 day a week in the evenings for a group that advocates for people with addictions, to help them manage their life with this addictive personality. Some of them are deep into recovery, 5 and 25 and 40 years, and some of them will come to these meetings and it's their first day attempting to not be an addict with drugs or alcohol. And so some people were like, "Oh, we don't want that type in our house of worship." And my parents were like, "Aren't we supposed to be practicing our faith and accepting of others? Staying safe, of course." But so my parents' house of worship got opened on Monday nights to this group, and 250 people dealing with alcohol and drug addictions and other things started showing up. Now, this was the 1960s in small town Ontario, and once a year they had an open house, and the people that belonged to the group came only if they wanted the public to know that they had this addiction issue. So both my mom and dad went, and they came home, and I was 12 or 13 at the time, and they said, "Your mother and I both had a unique experience tonight." And my mom said, "Did we ever?" We were there as sponsors of the group in our house of worship, because these people need a safe place to gather to talk about managing life with an addiction to alcohol or drugs or other things. But both of us had people come up and say to my mother, "I didn't know your husband had an addiction issue." And my dad had people come up saying, "I didn't know your wife had an addiction issue." And they, well, no, those aren't our issues, but these people are family to us because we're trying to walk in faith, and it's important to support them. And so one of those people that led the group, when I got to be 5 or 6 years older, found me in my retail job and came up and shook my hand and said, "Your parents doing that have changed dozens, if not hundreds of lives, because nobody would let us have a space for within 20 miles of your house of worship, yet you let us in. You let us in for free. We cleaned up after ourselves." Remarkable. The only thing we did that made it show that it was a place for our problem is a lot of us trade addictions. So we brought our own coffee pots and ashtrays, and your building has 5 extra sets of this was the 60s, 5 sets of extra ashtrays outside, because we often go from drugs to tobacco, alcohol to tobacco. So that's the only way you know it's one of our sites, is when you see an extra 5 or 10 cigarette major ashtrays outside. He said, but your parents changed our lives because it's a place of safety that we can go for 90 minutes to 4 hours to talk about being an addict in safety without judgment. So I got to meet people that were famous in the region who had addiction issues, and yet you didn't know that that judge was dealing with addictions, or that surgeon, or the family postman. But wow, it was so enlightening, because they looked normal because they were in recovery, and they'd fought hard to stay sober and not be an addict, and whether it was gambling or sex or drugs or alcohol. So that really opened my mind to that these people are not criminals, although the odd one gone lost and astray will do criminal acts to feed their addiction, not denying that. But helping others, wow, what a gift my parents gave me by helping them, because then I got to see it. I got to meet people of all sorts. One of the men were famous in all of Canada. So that was just huge.
Oh, that was good, sir. You have too much knowledge, and thank you so much for giving us amazing things. Thank you so much again, sir. Sir, how do you believe diversity in perspective contributes to a better future?
Oh, excellent question. Well, let me go right back to research from the 1980s in Canada. One of our business schools, I believe, and along with a psychology department of a major school, did research. And the more diverse a company is, age, race, gender, faith, all of them, educational levels too, the higher their profit margins. So one of the things that I learned in my mid-30s was that age has nothing to do with wisdom or work ethic. Now, I was a hard worker by 5 or 6 because that's how I was raised, and I enjoyed, to use an old phrase, putting my back into it. So my dad, when I was 6 years old, that lady up the street that lives alone, she pays school taxes, so you have a good teacher. So she's over 65. I want you to shovel her front porch, her stairs, and her sidewalk every time it snows before you do ours. She pays a lot of money in taxes, so you get good schooling. Your mother and I pay school taxes too, but she's long ago, her daughter is in her 40s. She paid school taxes a long time, so you help her. Oh, my dad was teaching me about society. Well, I get to be in my 30s. I've got a small business, this Resiliency for Life. My computer's a couple years old. Instead of buying a new one, I'm going to upgrade it. $400 to get more random access memory and install it. Okay, my neighbor whose son is a computer whiz, the dad says to me, my son mentioned you paid $400 to get your computer upgraded. Don't you do that again. My son is 12. He's been using computers since 2. Ask him, and no money. So when it came time to upgrade the next computer, I called his son, who was by then 14-ish, and I said, hey, I need to upgrade my computer with more RAM, and I put it in a new hard drive. Oh, yeah, I'll be over. He comes over after school. I lived in the middle of nowhere back then, so he got off the school bus at the end of my driveway, comes in, glass of water, takes my computer apart, makes sure he's got no static charge, uninstalls, reinstalls the new RAM, does it all. 20 minutes. The expert took 50 minutes. This kid is like changing RAM on a computer like I played piano. He made it look so easy. So one of the things I've learned is that age, race, color, creed, gender, preference, etc. has nothing to do with wisdom or hard work ethic. So there's a book called 6 Thinking Hats. And to your viewers, I highly recommend that you start a business, professional, personal library, and 6 Thinking Hats be one of the first books you put in your personal library. And that is 6 ways to approach every situation you have. And then the next book is 6 Action Shoes, 6 ways to implement what you've decided on from 6 Thinking Hats. Mr. DeBono, to me, is brilliant. absolutely brilliant. It's 6 ways to look at everything, because you and I could be having a discussion that could be heated. And maybe it's because I'm talking about 3 of the things that are important to me in the 6 thinking hats, and you're talking about the other 3. And if I don't respect your 3, and maybe you don't understand my 3, we're not going to reach a conclusion. So I love his book because it gets people to consider the 6 most important points of view. One of them is financial. One of them is safety and negatives. One of them is safety and positives. I think he's just brilliant because he made it so that if you're in grade 6 or more, you can use the principles of this book. So that to me is about a better future and diversity of thinking.
That's amazing, sir. Thank you so much for giving us amazing lessons. Uh, it is very amazing, sir. Thank you so much. And sir, what advice would you give to others who want to embrace diversity and learn from people of different backgrounds?
Oh, go to events that you're not comfortable with, but stay safe. So I've been blessed. I live in Toronto, where we have over 100 different races and cultures, and in my province, or some would call it a state, we have over 200 languages. So it's very, very easy for me to get invited. So I've been to some events where I'm I've only 1 or 2 men in the whole group of 500. It's 498 ladies and 2 men. So that's an honor to be invited to a women's event about mental health, because they like my educational experiences and what I teach. So that, and then by race, it's really exciting to get invited to different neighborhoods where I'm the only Western European in the group. And so that's amazing. And a couple of times I was at an event where I was the shortest person there, because most of the people there were primarily college athletes that went on to get advanced education. And I was invited because they were looking for somebody who had experience in helping people learn how to job search. So these people had high levels of athleticism, high levels of education, but some of them were stuck job searching. And so I got invited, and we got along so well. And after a couple of years of going to the events with respectful humor, they told me I was one of the only people they could find, because I was so short, I stood out as long as they stood up to look. And then one of them, who was a gentleman of African descent who had a gorgeous dark skin, he said, "I find it easy to find. You're the only white guy in the room." So they weren't being disrespectful. They were being respectfully playful. And it made me pay more attention that I never realized how many people of different races got athletic scholarships, because it helped them change their situation in life. They didn't always get an honors degree or a master's degree in university because they were the smartest. They got in because they were a high-performing athlete in high school and had grades good enough to get into college or university. So it really expanded my mind. And from there, I've met some great people, and some wonderful friendships were made. And to see the passion for life when they had to go through obstacles that I didn't have to go through because of race. So that really amazing.
Oh, that's good, sir. Thank you so much again. So, how do you see yourself contributing to a more inclusive and understanding society?
Part of that is advocating for others that are less fortunate in another category of life. So I don't do it often, but on occasion I get a phone call and somebody's got an illness issue and they don't seem to be getting treatment properly. Sometimes it's because they're not good with their words. Sometimes it's because somebody is ageist, and our 85-year-olds deserve the same quality of health care as our 40-year-olds or 15-year-olds. And sometimes it's just because they're not being seen. They don't express themselves very well. So, for example, I work with a 15-year-old who had had a serious attack on her, and she was only being seen as a complainer, which is a disgusting thing. So with her mother, I got out my very polite but sharp, pointy elbows and helped a couple of people realize that they had to help her in a more professional manner, or they'd have to deal with Grumpy Mike. and they'd be physically safe, but I would go after their professional designation for inappropriate not following through and following up with this 15-year-old. So I don't do it often because it takes a lot of time, but we have to help lift each other up, because just because you're good at it doesn't mean I'm good at it. It's like me and my business math at college and high school. It's the easiest part of math for me to do. So when I was a retail consultant, it was easy. And some of my store owners and managers and staff, they had other gifts. So we would converse back and forth, because maybe you're the best merchandiser I've ever met. Teach me more. I'm just an average, adequate merchandiser. That'll help increase sales in my next store. And I'll help train your staff for cleaning schedules, because that's what I'm good at. So helping lift each other up with what we're good at in a respectful, non-condescending way, I think is a powerful way to live.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing this amazing experience. And I'm happy to see your energy, because I was feeling very tired before this interview, and now I'm feeling very energetic because you're an amazing person, sir.
Well, I appreciate the outreach. You know, not one of us is going to reach every person in the world. However, Mr. Campbell changed the quality of my life because I have learning challenges. My grade 1 teacher changed my complete life with her attitude towards me. In grade 1, within 3 to 4 weeks of school beginning, and I'm old enough, there was no kindergarten, nowhere to go for 4 and 5-year-olds. I started school at 6 years old. And within 3 to 4 weeks, she wrote my parents a very beautiful letter. And she basically, to use my terms, Michael has printing and hand coordination issues, and it seems that he's going to have challenges with spelling. School will be tough on him because those are important skills for school. However, Michael in the classroom and in the playground has above average, my words, social emotional skills, helping the kids with other things. He's good at collaborating and coordinating and lifting people up. So outside of the classroom and outside of school, Michael will do very well in life. What a great way to what they call frame me. She could have said I was stupid, I'm bad at handwriting and bad at printing and bad at spelling and grammar, and he's useless. He'll never make it past grade 8. Goflam, thank you. Instead, she acknowledged those issues, important to acknowledge them, but then she said, I got all these other skills, and tell him to do his best with the first list and keep excelling at the second list, because those things change lives. So Miss Patton is forever in my heart, because I have to tell you, my grade 2 teacher, the politest words I can tell you was, she was not a nice person. She basically told me I was stupid. She basically told me I was incompetent. And only teacher I ever had in grade 2, in any area of education, who made the students, almost every student in the class, cry every month. Could you imagine you're brilliant in math and I'm not? So she says to me, why can't you be just like her? What's wrong with you? And then she looks at you and goes, why can't you be like Michael? You sing terribly. Every day of the week for the whole year of grade 2, I had that teacher. But luckily, filed away here and here, I had Miss Patton. Michael's not good at these things. Tell him to do his best. Michael's very good at these things. Tell him to keep doing that and sharing them. So you never know how you can do something for one person, and they call it framing it, in the respectful, honest manner, and lift them up. So by sharing this information like you do, so very well, by the way, I believe we have the chance to lift one person up or many more. So thank you for the chance to do that, because to me it's very important we do it for each other.
Oh, thank you so much again, sir, for your precious time. And now I have to go because it's
Yes,
prayer time for me.
it
Sir,
is.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you
It's
so much.
very nice to meet you.
Yes, also it's very nice to meet you. Thank you so much, sir. Inshallah, I will meet you again, viewers. Thank you so much. Uh, till then, Allah Hafiz. Goodbye.
Bye-bye from Canada.
Bye from Pakistan.